What are some good resources to reference when troubleshooting? First, I would recommend looking here at your web page for this week. The learning material can be really helpful. As mentioned in the syllabus, it's not comprehensive though, and so you might have questions that aren't answered here. One thing that will probably be answered, or a location where you can find more answers, is this repository. So if I click on this link for week 2, it just pulls up all of the branches of code for week 2. We have a class activity start and a class activity complete. And if I pull this up, I have a node project right here. If I was just gonna download the zip file of this on my computer, or if you clone this repository and just pull up this branch and run it, this is a fully functioning node project. And you can look through it and you can see a lot of how things are working. So that's my first recommendation, is use this code. It's here for you to use. You have personal solutions provided to you for the first few weeks of the course. There's always going to be class activities that you can look at to just see some examples of how to do different things. So that's the first place that I would say, if you're really struggling and these resources aren't helping you very much, go look at the code for these different things. If you're working on a personal assignment and you get stuck, there's a lot of bullets for this lesson 2 activity. It's okay to pull up the solution, watch the video, and just see, okay, what's my end goal here? If you need to pull up the code and clone it and figure out what you need to do with your database to get it to work, that's totally fine. The reason why you have these solutions in the first few weeks of the course is to help you kind of get a handle on how this node architecture works, on how backend development as a whole works. So again, utilize these solutions and utilize these examples. The next thing that I would recommend is your class. I know for my students, I have a help and extra credit channel where my students can ask questions to get help on Microsoft Teams, and anyone can answer to get extra credit towards their assignments. So it's a nice way to incentivize students to answer questions and to help one another, but that is also a really good way to learn for yourself, is to help other people with their questions. So don't be afraid to ask questions. I get people, even in week 1, they're like, I feel like I'm behind. I can't ask what REST is, or I can't ask what an API is, when really you're probably in the majority of people that have that exact same question. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Go to Google. If I just Google simple Node.js REST API example, there are about a billion articles that come up with a good example of how to get a node project started, how I can hit a URL and return certain bits of data, how I can use a REST client to test it, all sorts of stuff, right? So Google is a really, really good resource. So is YouTube, so is Udemy, so is LinkedIn Learning. All these resources have a lot of good content in them that you can use. Learning how to sift through that content can be kind of difficult. So that's where kind of asking questions from your classmates or from a TA or from your teacher can really help. The university also has a tutoring center available to you. If I just search for BYUI Tutoring Center, you can request a tutor for free. The university provides this. If you're online, you can get an online tutor. If you're on campus, you can just get a tutor. It pulls up your class list. I don't have any classes that I'm a student in, but it'll pull up a list of classes that you're a student in, and you can just click on one and you can just set up appointments with a tutor to get that extra help. So those are a few resources. If you come across errors in the terminal when you're trying to run your application, just copy and paste that error directly into Google. That's what I do pretty much all day, every day. Anytime I have errors in my software development job, that's just what you do. You get an error, and if you don't know what it is, you research it until you figure out how to fix that error. And the next time you see that error, it's a little bit familiar, and the next time you see that error, you know exactly how to fix it without doing a Google search. But anyways, those are just a few of my suggestions.